Alright guys, so I had some requests to do a limiting reagent problem, so here's a real quick example. This will be a short video, I promise, so it'll be another lovely hand video. So in this equation, it is right now unbalanced. So our first step we have to do before we do anything else is maintain the law of conservation of mass and balance this chemical reaction. So when we do that, and I think we've kind of done a lot of this, so I'm just going to do it for you real quick. When we have our balanced chemical reaction, we're going to put a 3 in front of sulfuric acid, a 2 in front of aluminum chloride, and a 6 in front of hydrochloric acid. So let's assume that the problem gives us 25 grams of each of our reactants. If you recall, our reactants are always going to be on the left side. So we have sulfuric acid and our aluminum chloride. Those are our two reactants. So we are going to start off with what we are given. So we're given 25 grams of sulfuric acid. And as always, we are going to put that over 1. And we're going to do the same thing with our aluminum chloride, given that the problem tells us there's 25 grams. So there's your first step. So far we've balanced the equation and we've written everything we're given over 1. And what we're going to do first is we are going to convert both of these to moles. So if we have grams of sulfuric acid on top, obviously we are going to have grams of sulfuric acid on the bottom in order to get them to cancel out. That'll leave us with moles of sulfuric acid on top. And then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom, where we have grams of aluminum chloride on the bottom and moles of aluminum chloride on top. And again, that just gets us to make sure that our grams of aluminum chloride cancels with our grams of aluminum chloride. Okay? So the next thing we got to do is find our molar masses of each. I already did that for you. Again, I think we know how to do this pretty well. For sulfuric acid, it came out to 98.09 grams per mole. And for aluminum chloride, it came to 133.33 grams of aluminum chloride. So we have now canceled out our grams of sulfuric acid and we've canceled out our grams of aluminum chloride. Our next step is to make a mole ratio, and it doesn't matter which one you do. You can pick either one. I'm just going to say I want to go to moles of sulfuric acid. So it's already up here. We already are ending up with moles of sulfuric acid because that's what's written on top. So we're just going to do that math in our calculator, where we have 25 divided by, since it's on the bottom, 98.09, and we get 0.255 moles of sulfuric acid. And that's our first part. So we found out one of our reactants. The second part we have to do, this is where we're going to have our mole ratio. So if we have moles of AlCl3 on the top, we are going to have moles of AlCl3 on the bottom in order to get them to cancel. Okay? Now if we have moles of AlCl3 on the bottom, the top is what we're going to be trying to get to. Well, we are already converted the top to moles of sulfuric acid, so that's what we want to get to. We have moles of sulfuric acid on top. And the last thing we have to do is put in our numbers for this. So in order to get them numbers, we're going to go back up to our reactants, and that's where our balanced chemical equation, in other words, our quote-unquote bakery cake recipe, comes into play. So for AlCl3, the number in front of it is a 2. So we're going to go back down here and we're going to put a 2 in front of our moles of AlCl3. And then in front of sulfuric acid, we have a 3 up here. So we're going to go down to the bottom and put a 3. Lastly, we're just going to do this in your calculator. So you are multiplying 25 by 3. And we get 75. And we are going to divide that by 133.33 times 2, and we get 0.281 moles of H2SO4. Okay, The last step in determining which one is limiting is we're going to look at both of our equations. So in the top one we had 0.255 and in the bottom one we had 0.281. All you have to do is locate which one is smaller. In this example, this is our smaller number. But we're not done yet. In order to find out which one is our limiting, that is going to be the one that is associated with the smaller number. So for this one, this is associated with what we started with, which was sulfuric acid. So that tells us that our sulfuric acid is our limiting reagent. And that's all I expect you to do. One more thing I want to say about this, hypothetically speaking, if the bottom one, so this is not correct for the problem, I'm just making up a hypothetical situation. If the bottom one was smaller, so if this 0.281 maybe was 0.21 instead, then the bottom one would be our limiting reagent. And with that one, it is associated with AlCl3, so then that one would be our limiting. But in this scenario, obviously the top one, which was our sulfuric acid, is smaller. So hopefully this helps you guys a little bit. If you have any questions, you can let me know tomorrow, and have a good night, guys.